And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Friday, March 7th. I am Josh Engleman. Below me, DK. We've got an 8-game slate ahead of us today. All games, both sides, DraftKings and FanDuel. We've got a 7 o'clock start, 2 7:30s, 2 8s, then a 2-hour break until 2 10s and a 10:30. This is the late swap slate, guys. You're going to want to be around all night. 3 straight hours of coverage. Deeper dive for an hour. Live before lock for an hour. Live after lock. Myself and Greg on playback talking ownership, late swaps, bets, anything you guys can think of. On playback, we're sharing OddsShopper right now. You guys are going to see the best odds for the entire hour that we are live on playback. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you've got a steady dose of DFS on the screen. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter. DK, what's going on, man?
Yeah, doing pretty good. This is I'm excited for this slate. It's going to be chaos. It kind of feels like an end of the regular season slate. But we have like 3 teams kind of like punting it. So yeah, a lot of moving pieces. Decent slate for late swap as well. And yeah, ready to break it all down with you.
Well, let's get it started then, shall we?
Yeah,
lots to talk about. Cleveland Cavaliers, 17-point favorites in Charlotte. I really wish this game was in Cleveland. I want to see a game before this year is over where we get the 20-point line.
Mm-hmm.
I think we can if OKC, Boston, or Cleveland can be at full strength against one of these scrub teams. And like, especially if you can get like a situation where LaMelo ends up out or something for Charlotte, then you could really get it. I want to see that before the year is over. Right now, doesn't seem to be mattering. Even with the great total for this game, and the implied total for Cleveland's great, Charlotte, not so much. There's no ownership coming into Cleveland because these guys are at full strength or essentially full strength. 7% ownership to Evan Mobley is the most on DraftKings. It's 11 on FanDuel. Everybody else is minimal single digits. So my question to you is, do you want to get to anything from Cleveland?
No, not really. And it's just because we have a lot of value on this slate. It's kind of setting up for a bit more of a stars and scrubs build. This is the one early game. I'm not sure if we'll get confirmation on some of these, questionable guys before this game locks. And plus Cleveland, again, they're fully healthy. They're probably going to run a 10-man rotation here. So there's really not much here for the Cavs. Price points seem correct in a lot of these main guys. The minutes have not been great on Jarrett Allen. The price is up on Ty Jerome when a lot of these guys were out. Honestly, like Cleveland's almost like a full fade for me. Like, can Donovan Mitchell or, Darius Garland or Evan Mobley pop off here? Of course. But I think I'm just going to look to pass in the Cavs today.
Yeah, I think we're on the same page. I only got to 1 share of Evan Mobley, and that was it. I think the best way to look at them is really just if you want your last guy in to be Mitchell or Garland or Mobley or even Allen to a degree, I think that's reasonable for any individual lineup. You got Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, and Allen all around like a 15% boom to hit their target score. They're rarely optimal because they're just not all that cost effective from a point per dollar perspective, especially on a slate like this with the value that we have. But there's nothing to stop. Like if Donovan Mitchell goes for 53 fantasy points, which we say is like a 14% chance, that's going to look great. It's not likely to be the optimal, the number one lineup, but you don't need the optimal in NBA DFS. You can just be good enough. And those guys could all be good enough. But we have some plays today that are next level awesome. And that is not what we're getting here for Cleveland. Like I can't even ask you like who you prefer because I'm sure you just don't care. If it's Mitchell in a lineup, great. If it's Garland, if it's Mobley, they're all the same, basically, at least to me.
Yeah, I don't really have a preference with the main guys.
So then we take a look on the Charlotte side. That is where we are getting a little bit of ownership, but really not all that much. No one is getting any love on FanDuel. The most we have is 9% to anybody, so single digits. And no one's getting any love on Charlotte on DraftKings, except for $3,700 Yusuf Nurkic. Currently projected for 30% ownership. We have him 26% optimal, 52% chance of 29 fantasy points. The interesting piece will be who starts. Is it Nurkic or Diabate? Because if it's Diabate, he's not a great per minute guy, and then you get a little nervous about Nurk's minutes. If
Mm-hmm.
Nurk starts, then it's just like, all right, he's too good of a point per dollar play with starter minutes. Even if he only plays like half the minutes, that's still going to look good. How do you want to balance these centers?
Yeah, so center is really loaded today, right? We have Jokic that stands out as an amazing play because we have like so many good value options. We have JV. We'll talk about a few other centers like Orlando Robinson's a really good center play. We have the Thunder guys waiting on Chet. But I do like Nurkic. So the rotation last game was not great for Nurk. We actually saw 3 centers play when it was Mark Williams, and then you saw Nurkic, and you saw a little bit of Diabate. Now, obviously, with Mark Williams out, I'm pretty sure it's going to be Nurkic that starts. And in the last start that Nurkic made on 2/24, the minutes were really good for him. So he played like 17 first half minutes in that game.
Yeah.
And it was on pace to play over 30, but the game blew out. With the Charlotte Hornets, it's a small sample size, but he's a 1.44 fantasy point per minute player so far with the Hornets. So I like Nurk, 3,700, assuming he starts. Even if the game blows out, I think he can put up a decent score just because he's such a good point per minute player, right? So, I do like Nurk, and I think the minutes upside, like if this game does stay competitive, I think he could push for close to 30 minutes based on what we saw in his last start.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. My only nerves here are just that I think they long term, I guess is the way to put it, like Diabate more. It just makes for a team that has nothing to play for or nothing to care about. That's the only thing that makes me at least a little bit worried. But 3,700, like even if he's coming off the bench, I think he's going to get your standard rotation minutes. On the off chance Diabate starts, how do you think you'll manage Nurk at that point? Because that becomes a bit of a wild card.
Yeah, that would be tough in that scenario. It would depend on the ownership. I would assume that the ownership would drop a lot on Nurk. If he would be like, I don't know, 5% or something, I'd be willing to take some shots. If he's still someone that would be getting like 10 to 15% ownership, then maybe not so much. And then I do want to mention, I don't think it's likely, but you always get like the outside chance that like maybe Taj Gibson gets a shift or something. So that could definitely hurt. I don't think it's likely, but just wanted to mention that. So if Nurkic comes off the bench, I think he's still in play, but it'll really depend on what his ownership is.
Do you think you're rostering anything else here from Charlotte? Because there's not much that looks great. Obviously, if you ever want to take a flyer on LaMelo Ball, I don't think it's crazy. He's 9,500. He's point guard only. There are times in these situations where this 17-point underdog is just in it all the way. And if that's happening, there aren't a lot of dudes you expect to be doing it other than LaMelo Ball. Can you get there today?
I'm probably not going to get to LaMelo. He did play 36 minutes in his last game, which is good to see. There's been a ton of blowouts. If the game does stay competitive, I think you're expecting around mid-30s minutes there for LaMelo. So the ceiling's still there. But yeah, he's probably someone, even though he's not getting much ownership, that I'm not going to get to. I think I just prefer other spin ups on the slate, specifically Jokic, assuming he plays.
Same. I think you and I are on the exact same page here. There's just no. I mean, I got half the field of Nurkic, so I am getting there. 2 shares of LaMelo, and that's it. No Bridges, no Smith, none of these guys. It's just not that great of a game. And with the way that late swap's set up today, I'm not mad about not having the 7 o'clock start because it's 1, not that great of a game, and 2, it'll hamstring me for later. So I think we've said all that we could possibly say here for Charlotte and for Cleveland. So we go to game number 2. This one's going to be a gem. I am excited to talk about it. I've got takes for this one. So let's do it. Memphis Grizzlies. 10.5-point favorites in Dallas, 239 total. Let me grab the most recent injury report just so I have all of the correct info. Santi Aldama still questionable. John Conchar questionable. Obviously, Triple J out. Now, there's no ownership coming in on the DraftKings side, really. 10% to Ja. Everybody else is 4 or below. Ja got to 24% ownership on FanDuel, which I think makes a lot of sense at 8,100. A little bit coming into Aldama, a little bit coming into Bane. Generically speaking, I don't want you to dig in on anything yet because I want to get my take in. Does anything jump out to you for Memphis?
I mean, looking at ownership, I do think like Aldama is going a little bit under-owned right now. He's only 3%. He did go through shoot around, so I'm expecting him to play. So I like him as a contrarian option, assuming he gets the start. But that would depend on him starting, which I think he would if he's available. Last game was Vince Williams because both Triple J and Aldama are out. But I think if Aldama is in, he would start. And if he is, I think he's a little bit interesting there at 3% ownership.
I want all of the Zach Edey today.
Okay.
Zach Edey is tailor-made to beat the shit out of teams that aren't able to handle him. It's going to look like college to me, as far as I'm concerned. When you get him against like another real, actual 7-foot guy with some size, he's not totally used to that. But he is so talented offensively when no one can keep up. And there's probably never been a team in the league at this point that is less capable of keeping up with Zach Edey today. They have nobody that resembles him. If Dwight Powell's out there for 20 minutes, he's still like 60 pounds and 5 inches shorter than him. When it's not Dwight Powell, Zach Edey has 8 inches and 90 pounds on the next person that's there. Offensive, defensive, rebounding, I think he owns the boards. I think if they give him the ball in the blocks, one of two things are going to happen. He's going to score immediately, or they're going to send a double, and he's going to see whatever he wants to see over the top of this Dallas defense. I don't know how he's not awesome today. I don't think, like, I'm obviously a data guy. I rarely deviate from whatever I see. I'm going to make sure that I have a ton of him because I think this is just a spot where he is going to absolutely destroy the Dallas Mavericks.
No, I like the call. Like I said, like Dwight Powell is really the only center for Dallas, and he's still can't play big minutes. He played 24 minutes last game. You're probably expecting around that. So it would be a mismatch if Powell's not out there, obviously. And yeah, Edey could definitely feast. This is a spot too where, it could get out of hand, but we actually have seen Edey like close games before too in blowouts if it does get out of hand. So wanted to mention that too. I think the only downside is just like there's so many good centers, but yeah, he's like completely unowned. So I like the call on Edey. I think he's a good contrarian play.
Why do people act like Zach Edey didn't play 27 minutes 2 games ago? But he plays. If Santi Aldama's out, he's playing real minutes today.
Oh, for sure.
And even if Santi Aldama is in, he played 26 minutes with Aldama in on the first, 24 on the 28th with Aldama in. If he gets 24 minutes, I'm cool with it. It's what we have projected right now. And I think that he could play more because this matchup is uniquely set up for him to absolutely crush Dallas. And for anybody in chat that's like, oh, they're going to go small. It's like, well, yeah, that's one thing they can do. But they're going small with half of a team that shouldn't be in the NBA. Not like the 2018 Warriors.
Yeah.
They're not playing Draymond at the 5. It's Dwight Powell and Najee Marshall. I don't like Kessler Edwards. I think Edey just nukes. This matchup is uniquely set up for him to just destroy these dudes. So I am very pro Edey. You don't get takes out of me all the time. Edey's the take. So I'm happy to put my name and my stamp on it. You want to give me shit when this is over? I'm cool with it. I've never liked this spot more than I like this spot right now.
Wow. All right. Well, incoming Edey 2 quick fouls right away.
I have no doubt in my mind this goes tits up for me. But I will be putting my money where my mouth is by the time we get there.
Okay. But yeah, for the rest of Memphis, so I wanted to mention Ja Morant. I'm pretty surprised that he was not on the injury report. So after last game, he's dealing with that shoulder injury. He said like he shouldn't have played, like he shouldn't have been out there. So kind of shocked he's not in the injury report here in like a game they should pretty easily win against like a G League Mavericks team. So that surprised me. Could you get like a late add to the injury report here in the next hour or so? I think it's possible, but yeah, that just really surprised me from the quotes from after last game that Ja's like not even on the injury report.
I assumed he would have just been there. I assume he's just always going to be there. So it was surprising to me as well that he was not on the injury report. By the way, Zach Edey this season, 71% at the rim, 99th percentile offensive rebounder, 86th percentile defensive rebounder, 64% true shooting. He's just not going to miss. This dude's going to get bucket after bucket after bucket. And if this Dallas team can't make a bucket, he might have 10 rebounds in the first quarter. I love it. Get all the Zach Edey, folks. You heard it here first. But now we got to talk about Dallas because Dallas is short on bodies. As of right now, the most active players they're going to have today is 9. Dante Exum is questionable right now. We got word that Caleb Martin is Caleb Martin is technically still questionable in the injury report. We'll see if that changes at 5:30. He is expected to play. He hasn't played in like 2 months. So I would be very surprised if Caleb Martin can play a lot of minutes. This is a lower body injury. But because they only have this limited amount of guys, potentially 8, 25% ownership to Najee Marshall, around 10 for Klay Thompson, around 10 for Brandon Williams. Relatively light for everybody else. How do you want to manage this shorthanded Mavs team?
Well, yeah, as you mentioned, the most they could have is 9. That they could only have 8, and like even if these guys play like Exum and Martin, I think that they're going to be limited. Like Exum is usually hovering around like 20 minutes. Martin's been out for so long. Like I would be shocked if he plays, a lot. And then Dwight Powell still coming back from injury. They've kind of been easing him back in. So they could be shorthanded. They could be extremely shorthanded. We'll see. But either way, this is a team that I think you still have to have some interest in. Najee Marshall right now getting the most ownership, coming in around 20%. 6K is a reasonable price point for him. He played, 32 minutes last game. Again, a guy that can kind of stuff the stat sheet. So no issue getting there to Najee Marshall. Klay Thompson coming in around 10% ownership at 5,500. I think he's an interesting GPP play. So he led the team in usage last game, had a 31% usage rate, played 34 minutes too. So that's good to see for Klay, just because, again, they didn't really have many options. So he'll be chucking. 5,500 is a reasonable price. So yeah, he's viable in tournaments. Brandon Williams at 3,800, I think, is an interesting contrarian value option, especially if like one of those questionable players can't play. It was him and it was Dinwiddie that led the team with 10 potential assists last game. And he's a guy that obviously will play like no matter what in competitive game or in a blowout. So $3,800. Brandon Williams played 34 minutes last game. I think he's going a little bit under-owned. We do have a lot of good value. That's the thing. But yeah, I still have some interest there in Williams. Not much ownership going to Christie or Spencer Dinwiddie. I think those guys are playable for tournaments. Like I said, Dinwiddie had 10 potential assists last game. Didn't have the best game, but still should expect good minutes from him. Still should start. Max Christie, 5,400. Has been kind of cold of late, but we saw the ceiling from him when he first came to Dallas. So I think those guys are viable in tournaments. I'm not going to mess with Exum, who if he plays, I think will be limited. I'm not going to mess with Kessler Edwards or Powell or Martin, but Dallas is a team I think you're going to have to have some interest in. And again, if they only have 8 guys, they're going to look better for sure.
Yeah, we got to keep tabs on that Exum news. I would say Caleb Martin is the only guy that you like 1,000,000% can't play today for Dallas.
Yeah, agree.
Because I don't know how you could project him to get real minutes today. Exum would surprise me at 4,700, but like I don't know for sure he can't play 28 minutes, whereas it would shock me if it were Martin. I don't really love the idea of getting to Dwight Powell, but you can see it, I guess. The ownership to Christie and Dinwiddie, I'm glad you pointed that out. That's weird. Like Dinwiddie just doesn't look good today. 4% optimal, 4% owned. I'm with you. Like I would much rather have Brandon Williams at 3,800. 2x in him right now, probably have more by the time we get to lock. I'm looking at Marshall. I'm looking at Klay. I'm looking at Brandon Williams. And then I don't get the sense that I'm going to have much of this Dallas team. The Exum news will matter. Like if he ends up out and everybody starts getting an extra 23 minutes redistributed, then Brandon Williams will be much more popular. I think Christie probably looks a little bit better at that point. Kessler Edwards is probably grabbing a couple extra minutes. Oddly enough, that Exum news is going to matter a lot. And a quick reminder here, on the off chance that like both of those guys can't play, one of them is going to be active no matter what. Don't get caught by that. They have to have 8 active bodies for this game. So even if Martin and Exum literally can't play today, one of them is going to be named active by the time we get to that point. So be aware of that moving forward.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is possible. Like there's a chance that they just have to list one of those guys as active and they don't play and then play 7 guys, which would be crazy. And then you would still have a somewhat limited Powell. So like the other 6 would just play like massive minutes.
Yeah, we've seen it happen. So I don't think that's going to be a fun thing to talk about, but we'll get that news later on tonight, either just at the end of Live Before Lock or potentially right when Greg and I get started on playback.tv/Stokastic. Let's talk about that schedule for the rest of the day. We're going to go for an hour. Greg and Eric are going to pop in at 6 o'clock. They're going to break down everything rolling up until lock from 6 to 7. And then Greg and I are going to be live on Playback from 7 until 8. That's playback.tv/Stokastic. Totally free. You can come join us. We're going to watch games. You guys can watch along with us. If you have League Pass, you can just link your account. Again, it doesn't cost you anything to do any of this. If you don't have League Pass, we have 20 VIP passes that we can give out so you guys can see the screen. If you don't get a VIP and you don't have League Pass, then it's sort of just like this show. You'll see Greg and you'll see myself and you'll hear us talking. You just won't see the game. Not the worst thing in the world. I'm sorry that you got to look at Greg for an hour with nothing on the screen, but what are you going to do? I hope that this stellar face can make up for it. Or at least I hope that I can get a little bit better for you guys. We're going to watch games. We're going to talk ownership, late swaps, bets, random stuff that you guys want to talk about. Maybe UFC tonight for tomorrow night. It'll be fun. So come join us. The Utah Jazz are 5.5-point dogs in Toronto. 229 total. Utah is without Jordan Clarkson, John Collins, Lauri Markkanen, Oscar Tshiebwe. Got a Q tag on Jaden Springer and Keontae George. Basically no ownership coming into Utah. Around 10 for Walker Kessler, 3% for Keontae George, and straight zeros across the board for the rest of Utah. Do you see these guys differently? Does anything stand out to you here?
No, not much here for Utah. Again, Kessler is getting the most ownership. Agree with that, but still pretty hard to get to him with the other centers that we have on this slate. It's just such high opportunity cost. So, I mean, again, it's a decent price point, but I'm probably not going to get to him. Keontae George is questionable. I kind of lean that he plays because it's just an illness. It's been a couple days since he missed that last game. So kind of lean that Keontae George is in. If he's in, I really don't think I'm going to consider anything else. If he's out, I mean, Collier maybe becomes playable, but you do have Colin Sexton back too. And I don't think you can get to Sexton either because he's only played 17 and 20 minutes in his first 2 games back. They've been easing him back in. So don't think you can go there yet. Snyder did mention him wanting to play Walker Kessler and Filipowski more together, but Filipowski's priced up from when Kessler is out, so you can't go there. So yeah, pretty unappealing team, the Utah Jazz here.
I wish that I could say something interesting, but I don't have it. Walker Kessler ranks 23rd. We already know we have a bunch of value out there for centers, not to mention my stance on Edey. Keontae George is in. It just looks really blurry. I don't know how you choose between him and Isaiah Collier. So I would just rather not play Utah all that much. A couple shares of Kessler works for me. I don't have anything else to add here. This is not one of those teams.
Yep, agree.
There are some teams that are getting stupid ownership. Utah's not one of them. Toronto is. You ready to do this one? Because Toronto's looking damn good. No Ochai Agbaji, no RJ Barrett, no Grady Dick, no Jonathan Mobo, no Jakob Poeltl. I had Chris Boucher as one of my top 5 plays when I started the day. Chris Boucher now doubtful. These guys are running short on human beings. 60% ownership coming into a $7,900 point guard small forward eligible Scotty Barnes. 40 to Quickly. 30 to Orlando Robinson. 25 more for Jacoby Walter and AJ Lawson. Let's start with the easy one. Is Scotty Barnes the best play on the slate?
Yes, I think 7,900 is just way too cheap. So with RJ Barrett off the court, he's a 1.3 fantasy point per minute player. Now, the Raptors did not close with their main guys last game, but I don't think you can expect that to happen again. So nice eligibility in a great spot as well with like half the team out. So yeah, Barnes getting an insane amount of ownership, and I agree, he should be. I think he's probably the best play right now.
Yeah, it's just his price now is too low. They're missing too many legitimate bodies, so he can kind of do whatever he wants while he's out there. The positional eligibility is perfect. The matchup is great. He's in 90% of my stuff. I don't know how you get away from Scotty Barnes. Based on our boom bust tool, we have these 5 guys for Toronto ranked 2nd, 8th, 10th, 11th, and 13th. So I'm just going to throw it to you. What do you like and what do you not like about the guys getting love for Toronto?
Okay, so I like Quickly and Orlando Robinson. So Quickly coming in around 40% ownership. With RJ Barrett off the court, he's a 1.25 fantasy point per minute player. He also has a 39% assist percentage with Barrett off the court. So yeah, Quickly I think stands out as a really good point per dollar option here in the mid range. And again, we already mentioned it. fantastic spot against Utah. Orlando Robinson at 3,500, expecting him to start. I think you'll get Colin Castleton, who they called up from the G League, backing him up. But I think you're probably expecting, high 20s to maybe even around 30 minutes for Orlando Robinson. Again, he's 3,500 only. And on the year, he is, let's see, where's Orlando Robinson? 0.85 fantasy point per minute player. So not like amazing, but stands out as a pretty good point per dollar option here because he's just so cheap and because you're expecting pretty good minutes from him. So Barnes, quickly, Orlando Robinson, I think are three really, really good plays. Jacoby Walters getting a decent amount of ownership, coming in close to 30%, 3,700. I feel like he's going a little bit over-owned right now. Not saying you can't get to him. He should play decent minutes here, but he's not really a great point per minute player. So there's other value plays we'll talk about that I think maybe have a higher ceiling, but yeah, Walter is still someone you can get to. I think he's just going a little bit over-owned. I also think AJ Lawson's going a little bit over-owned as well, around 25%. He's a flat min price. Obviously, he's going to have to play decent minutes here just with Toronto being so shorthanded, but that feels a little bit high. Like, I don't understand why AJ Lawson is like, and Walter are like 25%, and then Jamal Shed is like completely unowned at 3,400. So Shed at 3,400, I think is a little bit interesting as a tournament option. He is only point guard eligible, though, so that is a bit of a downside. But yeah, not going to get to anything else here. Like, I don't think I'm definitely not get to Rodin or Battle. I don't even know if Garrett Temple plays. Like, I think Toronto will probably run a 9-man rotation and just Temple DNP. Yeah, so not much else there for the Raptors.
We got two questions about Barnes on FanDuel. No,
Okay.
he is not too expensive at 9,100, which is odd because you would expect it for him being $1,200 more expensive. He is 45% owned on FanDuel, ranking 8th in our boom bust tool, even at 9,100. With none of those guys there in a matchup against Utah, I'm still willing to spend 9,100 on Scotty Barnes by far.
Yep.
Don't mind at all. At 7,900, he's just stupid priced on DraftKings.
Yeah, he's just a completely mispriced. He's still a good play, though, on FanDuel though, at that price. I agree.
Yeah, like, he's a good play. He's a really good play on one of the best. He's a top 10 play on FanDuel right now. He's 45% owned. And then you look at him on DraftKings at 7,900 and you're like, oh, yeah, I get it now. That's why he's 63% owned and one of the best plays that you can get to. So yeah, play Scotty Barnes. Doesn't matter which site. Game 4. The Minnesota Timberwolves, 4.5-point favorites in Miami, 216 total. This is the dog shit game of the day. Fully unowned across the board, both teams, Minnesota and Miami. Rudy Gobert is the only item on the Minnesota Timberwolves injury report. He is questionable, hasn't played in a couple games. Randall's 6% owned. Ant is 4% owned. Everybody else is 0. It's essentially the same scenario on FanDuel, and I don't even think it matters if Rudy Gobert plays today. Do you get to anything here?
No, yeah, there's really not much, and I agree. Like, I don't even think if Gobert gets rolled out, there's much because like Naz Reid's been priced up already. What I wanted to mention with Gobert is I think there's a chance he comes out and just plays normal minutes. He's been out for like a month, but we did see Randall, who was out for over a month. In his first game back, he played 34 minutes. He was actually on pace to play 36 minutes in that game. So don't be surprised if Gobert is active, that he comes out and just plays normal minutes. But still don't think I'm going to get to Gobert. Just wanted to mention that. But yeah, there's really not much here. Like, DiVincenzo's priced up. Anthony Edwards feels priced right, maybe even a bit overpriced. So yeah, probably one of my least favorite teams in the slate.
Yeah, I got 2 shares of Randall, and that was it. He's the only guy that got to 5x his salary, and he hit it on the dot. So barely. If Gobert's out, you give Naz Reid a couple extra minutes, but he's already 7,600. His price is high because Gobert's already out. So if Gobert's out, then Naz Reid's just priced appropriately. So yeah, giant pace down spot. Miami is one of the slower teams. Defensively, they're still okay. I wouldn't say they're great right now with no Khalil Ware. That double big really helps, but this is not the spot. If this game goes to OT or something, congratulations to anybody that rostered parts of this because no one's going to have it. And then we get to Miami. Now, Miami could actually get a bunch of ownership by the time this is over because we have absolutely no idea who's playing today. Alec Burks questionable, Tyler Hero questionable, Jaime Jaquez questionable, Andrew Wiggins questionable. We're already without Khalil Ware, Nikola Jovic with the broken hand. Davion Mitchell is in. So if everybody's in for Miami, Are you on the same page that we are just not really going here?
Yep, just basically Xing them out. Hero and Bam priced up. These value plays, like I just don't want to mess with them at all if they're basically, you know, all these guys are in, because who knows what that rotation is going to look like with some of these value options. So they're basically a complete cross off for me.
Yeah. Do you have any leans on any of these guys? Have you dug into any of their news today?
I kind of lean that Hero plays because again, it was an illness. It's been a couple days. Wiggins, Jaquez, and Burks, no real leans there. But yeah, slightly lean that Hero will play.
It's really hard to break this down. Like, you can talk about Bam however you want at 9,200 because he's just kind of going to be himself regardless who's in or out. Don't think he matters. But if you hemorrhage a couple of these guys, and then we could start giving real minutes to Terry Rozier or Kyle Anderson or Duncan Robinson, it's going to look a little bit different. Like, I think Anderson is probably the guy that we end up attempting to get to if we lose a couple of these guys. But for right now, it's hard to throw any hypotheticals out there. 37% of the minutes are questionable, 39% of their projected fantasy points. It's just not a spot that we could talk about right now. That's why you should be watching live before lock and playback.
Yeah,
that's all I got.
Don't have much more to add.
No, it's tough. It's really tough. Okay. You guys want to sign up at Stokastic, get a free month of The Sims, or get a free month of Portfolio EV at OddsShopper.com. Link in the description. It's also dropping into chat from Nightbot every once in a while. Click the page that has 4 instructions and a huge list of our pick'em sites and sportsbooks that are partners with us. You sign up through one of those. They're going to give you some sort of deposit bonus or bonus bets. You might be able to deposit $25. You will get whichever package you're looking for, whichever individual sport. If you want the NBA core package, you get it for free for a month. And you can stack these deals. So maybe you sign up for 3 different pick'em sites because you never have before. That could be 3 months of projections, ownership, Sims, Discord. Maybe you want to do 2 months of Sims and you want to test out Portfolio EV for a month. You can do that as well. Just let us know in the email. Follow the instructions at the top of the page. The link is in the description, or Nightbot will drop it into chat. Game 5. Portland Trailblazers. 1.5 point dogs in OKC, 226 total. When I entered this line this morning and I started projecting out the rotations, I was like, it must be like 11.5. I must have fat fingered this one. And then I saw the Oklahoma City injury report and realized that I did not, in fact, do that. Q-tag Denny Avdia, Q-tag Jeremy Grant. Delano Banton is out for personal reasons. Obviously, still no Ayton, still no Time Lord. The Q-tags for Grant and Avdia will have some impact here. As of right now, there is no ownership coming into Portland. That could change if we free up 60 minutes.
Yeah, agree. Right now, there's not much looking at Portland. Shaden Sharp, over the last 5 games, has been leading the team in usage, but he's priced up to 6,800. So I think it's kind of hard to get to him. Denny and Simons both feel priced about right. Clingan's up to 5,500. You know, we know he's very up and down. Minutes not really secure, very foul prone as well. And there's so many good center plays. So there's not much here for Portland, assuming those questionable players play. If they both get ruled out, then that would change things. I think you would get Chris Murray in the starting lineup. I don't really think I would get to Chris Murray because he's not a great point per minute player, but would expect him to start at 4,100. I think Scoot would probably be the guy that I would look to first if these questionable players get ruled out at 5,700. So I think he would be in play for me. He really pissed me off last game, though. So I had an SGP on DraftKings with some Celtics players, and then I had the Blazers spread at +9.5. And it was an 8-point game with 6 seconds left, and Scoot ended up fouling for no reason, and Pritchard made both free throws to chalk it. So still in pain from that, and still mad at Scoot for that. But yeah, I think he would be the guy that would be in play here if both those questionable players don't play.
If one of the two are in, I'm going to assume that we're not going to get to much for Portland. Do you think that opens it up? I don't think it would really even matter which one's which because they're probably both playing in and around 30.
Yeah, if it's just one that gets ruled out, I still don't think I would get to much here.
Yeah, it's just not here. You would think they're not going to be the same team, facing this knockoff Oklahoma City team, but there's just not anything here for Portland. I didn't get a single share of anybody. The most owned guy is Denny at 4%. And then we get to whatever the hell this Oklahoma City team is today. Get ready. Guys, if you haven't been paying attention to what today's slate is, here's a look at Oklahoma City. Lou Dort out. Alex Dukas out, which breaks my heart for Alex Dukas because he's the only G League guy that was like, no, stay with the G League team today. So no Lou Dort, no Shea, no Isaiah Hartenstein, AJ Mitchell's still out, Cason Wallace is out, the good Jalen Williams is out, and then the really interesting piece here is Chet Holmgren is questionable. By all accounts, to me, it seems like they're trying to play him. I'm interested in what he's going to look like, but we got a ton of ownership coming in here. If Scotty Barnes isn't your number one play, Aaron Wiggins just might be 60% owned, number one in our optimal, number one in boom. He's our number one ranked guy. 3 of the top 4 guys come from OKC. You just kind of put Aaron Wiggins in every cash game and you don't think twice. And you're probably playing him in just about everything in GPPs, right?
Yeah. He looks like a great point dollar option here at 4,900. With SGA and J-Dub off the court, he's leading the team with a 25.8% usage rate. So expect him to start, and even if Czech is rolled out, he'll probably be the number one option there on offense. So I think Wiggins looks great here. If Czech gets ruled out, then Oklahoma City would only have 9. He would look a little bit better. What I will say is this is a game that obviously Oklahoma City is kind of punting. We saw the Rockets do this a couple games ago where they rested like almost all their main guys except for a few rotation players. And in a competitive game, you actually didn't see Jabari Smith and Jalen Green close that game. Is it possible Oklahoma City does something like that where, you get a normal first half rotation from these guys and maybe one shift in the third and they don't close in the fourth? Like, I think it's in the range of outcomes. So I wanted to mention that. But even so, again, Wiggins is, I think, the most mispriced guy here on the Thunder.
Isaiah Joe is 30% owned. He ranks 3rd, 4K, shooting guard only. I don't really know how you get away from that either. He's in 64% of my lineups.
Yeah, Joe's going to be chucking. I think he stands out as a great value option here. Shooting guard eligible. The ceiling is pretty high in him. So, I like Isaiah Joe a lot here for value. Looking at the rest of the team, what do you think the starting lineup is going to be? Do you think they're going to start Chet alongside the big Jalen Williams?
Fuck me. Okay, so Wiggins, Joe, Chet, for sure. Yep. I would say Caruso at that point for sure. And then, they're not short on bigs.
Right.
So it kind of makes me feel like it's one of Dylan Jones or Brandon Carlson. It's probably Brandon Carlson, maybe? Nah, we're not going to.
Wait, so
hold on. Let me look and see what we're projecting, because we have a rotation page which you guys should check out. Link in the chat right now. Joe, Caruso, Wiggins, Kenrich, Chet is what we're projecting right now.
Okay, yeah, I could see Kenrich starting. I could also see them just going, kind of the double big with Chet and Jalen Williams alongside Caruso, Joe, Wiggins too. I think that's a possibility.
Yeah, when push comes to shove, I don't think OKC is live to do weird shit with their starting lineup when everybody's in. So it wouldn't shock me at all if it looks a little bit weirder. They don't ever do this. So projecting their starting lineup isn't exactly easy. Yeah. There are guys that we know are going to be in there, but I could see them going double bigs. I could see them going Chet and Kenrich and just playing the real dudes to start and rotating through. But I don't have any confidence really.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of confidence either. We know there's a few guys for sure going to be in there, but the rest of the starting lineup I think could go a few different ways. Looking at the rest of the team. So Jalen Williams at 4,300 would like him more if he starts. Keep an eye on that. Obviously, would like him more if Chet is out as well. Would feel more confident in his minutes. Kenrich Williams, 3,400. Not an amazing point per minute player, but you're expecting decent minutes from him, and he's really, really cheap. Caruso is one guy not getting much love right now, 4,400. Expecting him to start. I think he's going a little bit under-owned at around 7%. So I don't mind him as contrarian play. And then, yeah, Chet, if he plays 7,300, I mean, it would be him and like Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe kind of running the show here. So if Chet's in, I think he's going a little bit under owned as well, just over 10% ownership.
Yeah, I will happily get Chet if he's in. Caruso looks solid at 4,400. Kenrich Williams is interesting to me at 3,400. I love Joe. I mean, I've got 2x the field of Joe. I've got 98% of Wiggins. I've got more than 2x the field of Jalen Williams with a Y. I'll probably try a little bit more Chet. There's just a never-ending supply of value. I mean, everybody except for Brandon Carlson projects for 5.2x value or more. Chet's the one at 5.2. It's a raw points thing. Everybody else is 5.8 or higher. They've got 3 guys at 7 or more. I like everything here. There's no limit to what I want to get. The top 6 dudes for OKC rank in the top 21 of the slate. I want all of it.
Yeah. Are you going to look to like any like the G League guys at all, like Jang or Dylan Jones?
It's hard to.
Yeah.
I find them interesting, at least. I think Jang is probably the easiest one to get to. Power forward, center, flat 3K. He's 5% owned. He'd be the guy that I'd get to first. I'd be surprised if I get to any of them unless one of these guys randomly start.
Yeah. I think if like someone out there is like playing for that narrative of like kind of what Houston did where, you know, they don't play their main guys in the fourth quarter, then maybe you could take a shot on one of those guys, but don't have a ton of confidence in that happening.
But I mean, this is one of, if not the best spots of the slate. Second most owned team today, the Oklahoma City Thunder. And it's going to look even crazier if Chet ends up getting ruled out, because then we start having to have those conversations about Jang and Jones and Carlson. Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff. Anything else for OKC?
No.
Let's go to Phoenix. Suns. 7.5 point favorites in Denver. 237 total. Not a lot of ownership coming into Phoenix. In fact, it's basically only coming in to Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. 8-7 to Durant and Booker on DraftKings. 11-7 to Durant and Booker on FanDuel. Yeah, this one's pretty bleak for Phoenix. Bradley Beal is questionable for today. Do you like anything for Phoenix?
No, not much. Brad Beal, I think they list him as available, I want to say. So I think he's in. But even so, with Beal in, there's just not a ton here. In the second half of last game, so you saw Beal and Bol start. They did not start the second half, though. They actually went to Tyus Jones and Royce O'Neal. So keep an eye on that starting lineup. Pretty sure, Beal, Booker, KD, and Nick Richards will start for sure. Maybe they swap out Bol and go to like a guy like Royce O'Neal or something. So I think that's possible. You also saw Colin Gillespie get dusted off, and he actually closed last game. Again, I don't think he's a play, but I think he's like probably going to see some rotation minutes here. But yeah, I think the only playable guys for Phoenix would be KD and Booker right now. And they're just contrarian options like 8,800 and 8,900. Like, yeah, they're playable, but they don't really stand out.
Max Prosper done for the year.
Damn. The Mavs have literally had like the worst injury luck this year.
I don't know what's in the water in Dallas right now, but it's pretty gross. I'm guessing it's like that Batman movie where Cillian Murphy puts shit in the water because something's wrong in Dallas. It's not good. Now that's the end of Phoenix. Denver might get weird. Aaron Gordon questionable, Nikola Jokic questionable, Julian Strawther out. We have infinite value. So Nikola Jokic with this Q tag is 45% owned. He's 12,300. We got him projected for 63.5 fantasy points. He looks incredible if he's in. He should smash Phoenix. I don't care about them. Like, I just want to get to him. He's in 60% of my stuff. But if he doesn't play, then you're redistributing that, and we're getting some crazy center value. So how do you want to handle Jokic for right now? I assume you just play him and deal with it later. There's not much else we could do.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing right now, plugging in and playing him. So he's questionable with it's an ankle, I want to say. Yeah, ankle injury. Now, he was questionable with that ankle injury last game and he ended up playing. So I kind of lean that he will play. Obviously not a guarantee, but I kind of lean that he is in 12.3K. Assuming he's in, again, with all the value that we have in this slate, I think he's your top spend up. So yeah, Jokic looks amazing here. Now, if he gets ruled out, again, that's where things would get a little bit weird. I think Jamal Murray and Russell Westbrook would be two guys that would look pretty good. Westbrook would be, in my opinion, the better point per dollar play in that scenario at 5,900 as opposed to Murray at 7,800. With Jokic off the court, Westbrook's a 1.17 fantasy point per minute player, Murray 1.11. So those two would look a lot better if Jokic gets ruled out. And then the center situation, if he gets ruled out, would be weird. It would depend on Aaron Gordon too, but they could go to some Zeke Naji at the 5. You could see DeAndre Jordan. You could see Sarge get dusted off. They could try to go small ball. There'd be a lot of different scenarios there. But again, I do lean that Jokic plays. Gordon is the other guy that is questionable. So Westbrook has been starting last few games for Aaron Gordon. He's played 36 and 35 minutes in those games. 5,900. He's getting no ownership. He's just kind of at a weird price point in the slate with so much good value. And then again, you have Jokic's good spend up. It is still hard to get to him, even if Gordon doesn't play. But yeah, the Jokic news I think is the big one. But again, right now I lean that he's going to play.
Yes, you and me both. The news is huge. There's no way to prepare for the opposite side of it because he's too good if he's in, and it's Nikola Jokic. There's no way to really hedge this one to me. I'm just going to let it rip, hope he plays. And if he doesn't, we've got 3 games at 10 o'clock to try to move this shit around. But if he's out and Gordon's out, we're going to have some value here for Denver. It's going to change everything during late swaps. It's going to be interesting to see what we get there. But like I said, I have 60% of him. He looks awesome. Awesome. Nothing else does. The final 2 games of the slate, unless you have anything else here for Denver.
No, that's it. Sorry.
Alrighty. Final 2 games, guys. I've mentioned Portfolio EV earlier, and you could sign up through one of our partners and get a free month if you want to. Or maybe you just want to check it out. You don't want to do anything else. Maybe you've never signed up at OddsShopper before. We have 7-day free trials of the Portfolio EV tool, and some upgrades might have been hitting Portfolio EV that you guys are going to be pretty interested in. 7 days, free trial. You pay us $0. You can click the link in the description. Come on in. All you have to do is check it out for a week. I don't think you're going to want to leave. You go check out Greg's bankroll challenge on Twitter, where he turned 100, over 1,000 at this point. He went from 100 to 1,000 in 100 days, basically. If that doesn't explain how awesome this tool is, nothing will. So make sure you're checking it out. Portfolio EV, free for a week if you've never signed up before. Game 7, San Antonio Spurs, 6-point dogs in Sacramento, 236 total. We got about 10% ownership coming into De'Aaron Fox. Basically nothing to the rest of San Antonio. Charles Bassey is still out. They don't have any other real injury news. This is just barely any ownership. I find these guys pretty interesting in GPPs at no ownership, but I also don't have them.
Yeah, I'm kind of in agreement. There's no one that stands out really point per dollar, but I think there's a few interesting tournament options here. So Fox is the guy getting the most ownership, 8,400. Revenge game against his former team in Sacramento. Hasn't really been playing the best lately, but we know that ceiling is there for Fox. We saw a couple big games from him when Wemby is in. We saw a couple big games from him right when Wemby goes out. So the ceiling is still there for Fox, and he's, again, not getting an insane amount of ownership. I think you're probably expecting around 35 minutes from him in a competitive game. So he is in play. I do think Stephon Castle is interesting, sub 1% ownership. I don't love the price, obviously, at 6,200, but he's actually leading the team in usage over the last 4 games by a pretty wide margin, 32.3% usage rate, again, over the last 4 games. So minutes have been pretty solid for Castle as well, averaging around 30 minutes. So I do think he is playable in large field tournaments as a contrarian option. We saw the huge pop-off game from Devin Vassell kind of out of nowhere. But again, the price point doesn't really stand out on him. The center situation, you're going to get Biyombo starting and then Sohan backing him up. I do think this is a game where you could see Biyombo get extended a little bit just because they kind of need his size against Jonas Valanciunas, but I'm not going to get to a $4,700 Biyombo. So overall, yeah, really just a tournament team that you can, take some shots on some guys here and there, I think.
You prefer Castle over Vassell?
I think I slightly prefer Castle over Vassell, yeah.
I think I lean Vassell just because of the positionality, but they look damn near identical. So
Yeah,
I don't have much. We got Vassell at 0.94 fantasy points per minute. We have Castle at 0.95.
Mm-hmm.
Basically the same price. So I don't see a ton of separation here.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by this team in GPPs. I'm really intrigued by the Sacramento Kings because they are without Malik Monk. They are without Domantas Sabonis. 45% ownership coming into DeMar DeRozan. 20 plus to Joval. Around 15 to 20 on Levine and Keon Ellis. And basically nothing to Keegan Murray. Who's your favorite Sacramento King?
Okay, so yeah, this team does look really good. So right now, I think my favorite option on Sacramento is going to be a $6,900 Jonas Valanciunas. So with the Sacramento Kings, he is a 1.34 fantasy point per minute player. Expecting him to play like 30 to 32 minutes, somewhere in that range. He played 32 there against Denver. And you're getting like him in the Domantas Sabonis role. So the potential assists are up a little bit, like a lot of like dribble handoff with JV. So yeah, I'm not afraid of, the matchup on the opposite side either. So I'm pretty high on JV. I think right now he's my second favorite center behind Jokic. But again, there's a lot of really good center plays. So yeah, I think JV is my preferred option on the Kings. What about you?
I have the exact same amount of Joval and DeRozan, 38% of both. So slightly under the field on DeRozan, obviously a bit over on Joval. Still getting to some Levine. I didn't get to as much Keon Ellis, which I felt a little weird. I thought I would, but he's up to 20%, and we have no shortage of value, and I think that value is going to move around. This is a game that I would like to just have a lot of, just to make swapping easier later.
Right.
But these guys look great. The Keegan Murray is interesting to me. I feel like I should be getting him just because those guys are out, but I don't have a single share and he's unowned.
Yeah, I think Keegan Murray is playable as contrarian option. Another guy I wanted to mention is $8,200 Zach LaVine, shooting guard, small forward eligibility. So he saw he was like the main playmaker for the Kings last game with Monk out. Made 65 passes and had 11 potential assists. He was kind of acting as the point guard there. So I kind of like Levine at around 15% ownership. Keon Ellis should play huge minutes. Again, not an amazing point per minute player, but played 39 minutes. So obviously he's firmly in play. He had 7 potential assists as well. So another pretty solid value option. Not going to get to much else here though for the Kings. Like Lyles will play the backup 5, but again, there's just much better value on the slate. Fultz really didn't see a minutes increase with Monk out. So it's really just the starting 5. I think JV is my preferred option, but have Henderson, Levine, DeRozan, Ellis, and yeah, Murray is playable, I guess.
Go Sacramento. Final game of the night. The late night hammer. Knicks and Clippers. If you're here, if you're one of the 2,000-ish people that are here, hit that thumbs up. Let's run that like count up for live before lock. The Knicks are unique today. Precious Achiuwa questionable. Dottier questionable. Tyler Kolek questionable. Most of that is not all that interesting. Mitchell Robinson is out. And then the big one, Jalen Brunson is out. I thought his foot broke off his leg yesterday. So I'm glad that it's just a sprain. We are getting some ownership here. 15% to Miles McBride. 15% to Cam Payne. And basically nothing for the rest of the Knicks. Let's skip those 2 backups for right now. Do you want to get to any of the real Knicks?
I kind of like Cat as a contrarian spend up at 9,900, only getting about 5% ownership. So with Jalen Brunson off the court, he's a 1.63 fancy point per minute player. And in a competitive game, assuming no foul trouble, you're probably expecting high 30s minutes from Cat. So I do have some interest in him as a contrarian option. You're going to get a bit more ball handling for Josh Hart. 8,100 though is like not an amazing price point. OG and Bridges are both fine, but I'm probably not going to go there. But yeah, I think like of the main guys, I think Cat would be the guy that I look to.
Yeah, I thought he was going to pop a little bit more just with that usage. I thought one of Hart or Anunoby or Bridges was going to look a lot better. And these guys are just getting no love. They don't grade out well in Optimal or Boom or anything like that. The only guys that are grading out well are Miles McBride and Cam Payne. So what the hell do we do with those 2?
Yeah, so Miles McBride, I think, is probably my favorite play of the slate right now at his ownership. I'm surprised he's not getting more love. Expecting him to start. So we saw Jalen Brunson miss one game this year. It was the game where we got the McBride troll where like he got ruled out after lock. I forget if he got like injured at warmups or something, and then campaign ended up starting that game. But last year, I know it was a slightly different scenario. When Brunson was out, McBride would start, and there were times where he would play close to the entire game. Now, I don't think you project that, but like I think he's got like 40 minutes in his range of outcomes, assuming he starts. Not going to be like an amazing point per minute player, but I like McBride quite a bit here. Again, I'm pretty sure he will start. So, yeah, he's one of my favorite plays right now on the slate at his ownership.
He looks great. You know, he's going to soak up a ton of playing time. You wouldn't be surprised if he played 40. Tibbs pulled this shit before with McBride. So I find him interesting. Other than the fact that he's just a terrible per minute guy, the minutes should be there, assuming he is the starter. And I'm happy to get to a little bit more ownership in this game just because it makes swapping easier. What about Payne? 3,100 point guard, shooting guard. Man, that one feels weird.
Yeah, so Cam Payne, he's a pretty good point per minute player with Brunson off the court, 1.04. So I think you're probably expecting like around 20 minutes from him, maybe a little bit more. So basically the flat min price, I understand why he's getting ownership. I think he's a solid value play and not expecting him to start, but do expect him to play more off the bench. So yeah, I have no issue with Payne. Of the two value guards, I think I would rather get to McBride. I think the ceiling's a bit higher on him, but still like Payne as a value option too.
Anything else for the Knicks? Do you care of Precious's status at this point?
No, because I think you're just going to see like some more Landry Shamet, and like I just not going to go to him. So yeah, even if Precious is out, I don't think that's going to do much. Final
team for us to talk about is the Clippers. No Cam Christie, no Norm Powell, no Ben Simmons. 15% ownership coming into James Harden, 10 to Kawhi Leonard. Not much else. Zoo's got 6. Harden much more owned on the FanDuel side. Have you been paying attention to Kawhi Leonard's minutes as of late?
Yeah, they've been playing him a ton. Really surprising, like how many minutes he's been playing. So yeah, that does make him playable here, just because again, this is not the Kawhi that we saw when he first came back. They're really easing him back in, like 38, 40, 37 minutes over the last few games. 7,800 is a reasonable price point. So yeah, I have no issue if you want to get to him. I think he's a totally fine play at 10%.
I'd like to get a little bit more just for swapping purposes. I don't have it right now. I'm 2xing Harden. How do you feel about him?
Yeah, so with Ben Simmons off the court, we've seen a little bit more potential assists for Harden. So over those last 3 games, 67 passes made, 18.3 potential assists per game. Obviously, the usage is still great there too. So I think he's a reasonable spend up. Again, getting a little over 10% ownership. Again, should play big minutes. So I have no issue there with Harden. And then Zubac is the last guy at 7,700, coming in around 5%. I mean, the ceiling is still there for Zubac, but there's just so many good center plays. I'm probably not going to get to him. Not going to mess with the value here for the Clippers. Some of these guys are priced up. You do have Derrick Jones Jr. back. I'm expecting him to start. So I think Bogdanovich will move back to the bench. So yeah, I'm not really going to mess with the value here for LA.
8 games up, 8 games down. DK, tell the people where to find you.
Yeah, you guys can find me over on Twitter, DK__DFS, doing prop content as well as DFS stuff.
Well, there we go, everybody. Deeper dive in the books. Hit that like button right now, because live before lock is now. I can see Greg. I can see Eric. Both of these gentlemen are here waiting to talk to you guys. So Greg, Eric, come say hi. There's 1. There's 2.
Fellas.
Close enough to a decent view.
This is I feel like every NBA slate now at this time of year, it's kind of the same in terms of, boy, there's a lot of players on the injury report. A lot of guys are getting ruled out. A lot of moving pieces. Doesn't seem like it's going to be stopping anytime soon. Going to be another good day to watch Josh and I over on Playback after this. The injury news that Eric and I are going to have to cover for the next hour. Here are all the players who are questionable.
Hang on. Before you do anything, get your mic set up. Your mic is off.
Yeah,
So
I was going to do it too. I was just
I
waiting.
did it for you. I did it for him. I was just like, we can't have him list off this entire. I mean, there are 48,000 names you need to list off. We need your mic connected, and then we'll be fine.
How about now? Is that better?
Yay!
There we go.
Hey, welcome.
I'll
Go
put that overlay back on, but I just took it down while we're here.
Do it.
By the way, also, Eric, join playback.
I can do that.
Yeah. So also
like the Brady Bunch.
something we're we're just gonna go tick for tack about things that we're fucking up right here to start. So also something that we're trying on playback during live before lock and the deep dive is, so we're gonna be screen sharing all the DFS data on the YouTube show, and then on playback we're going to have the portfolio EV bets at the top of the board, just auto refreshing constantly during the show. So if you guys are looking for bets, you just pop into playback, look at some of the bets on the board, place them. You should be good to go. We got the 7-day free trial for all new users there, and new algorithm update today. So we have a bunch more markets that are now included within that. I have so many bets that I've placed today. I'm up to about 250, and I've been really busy. It's just there's constant bets on the board with some of the new updates that we have. So really easy to find a ton of value, which I'm pretty excited about. And then also some other stuff that we got coming here over the course of the show. But most importantly, guys, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, check out Portfolio EV, 7-day free trial if you haven't already. DK, Josh. Well, DK, have a good weekend. Josh, I'll see you in an hour, and I also don't want you to have a good weekend.
Oh, man, that stings.
Bleak.
I meant it, though.
Bye.
All right. See you guys.
Bye. Later, guys. Oh, man. You're just coming in hot. My Lord.
Yeah. So, oh, that looks weird. All right. So, Eric, let's go over all these injuries. Now that I've got my mic properly situated, we've got you over into playback. Here's what we got that we're looking at for today. Nikola Jokic is questionable. Tyler Hero is questionable. Chet Holmgren is questionable. Denny Avdia is questionable. Santi Aldama is questionable. Andrew Wiggins is questionable. Rudy Gobert is questionable. Aaron Gordon is questionable. Jeremy Grant is questionable. For an 8-game slate, this is a massive amount of players, not to mention all the key guys who have already been rolled out for today. Eric, what of these injury news is most important to your lineups? Is there anything you feel really confident a guy being in or out today?
Chet Holmgren. Chet Holmgren is still questionable with everybody else on OKC out. Think about how good of a tournament play Chet Holmgren is if you get 32, 33 minutes out of him with everybody else out. And think of how good everybody else looks that already looks good from OKC. So, we have so many grenades to navigate on this entire slate, but, it's one of those where you look at what's going on with Chet Holmgren right now, and I don't see how when OKC is as popular as they are with, Jalen Williams and Kenrich Williams and Isaiah Joe and Aaron Wiggins, there are just so many good plays from OKC, and they could look even better if you get Chet out. And then Chet could potentially be the best tournament play on the slate if he's in.
Yeah. And it's funny, seeing somebody in chat bring up right now is that despite all the players, this is how loaded this OKC team is. Noticing in the YouTube chat, brought it up because he is noticing that the Oklahoma City Thunder are 3-point favorites today, despite all of the players who are out for them today. That's how deep this team is with good role players.
It's absurd. Cason Wallace, they have literally 4 starters resting. Jalen Williams, SGA. I mean, Hartenstein has been a starter, hasn't been a starter. You can call it what you will. Cason Wallace has been a starter too. So, I mean, it's insane how many guys they're resting in their 3-point favorites against Portland, because Aaron Wiggins is still really good. Isaiah Joe is still really good. Kenrich Williams, even though you never see him play, is a really good real-life basketball player. So, again, this is just one of those pieces of news with Chet Holmgren where it's kind of annoying because it's just sitting there waiting in the wings. But we have 3 games starting at 10 p.m. Eastern time, 10:30 for the Clippers game. I'm just saying, there's so many ways of being able to backload your lineups. And at the same time, we have a $3,700 Yusuf Nurkic if he's starting. We have 2 guys in Emmanuel Quickley and Scotty Barnes that are just impossible to overlook in the early window. So it's just a stacked slate. It's one of those slates that feels like April already, even though it's March 7th.
I've got one other thing to bring to the people. Tomorrow, big UFC card. We've got UFC 213. We got a special offer just for you guys watching this show. We're trying to reward our listeners, our loyal viewers. If you guys sign up for any of our UFC packages, anyone that you choose to sign up for,
If you sign up with the promo code 313, you get 50% off. Now, a couple of caveats here. This promo code is only going to be running for either one of these two things, either the next hour or after 25 people claim it. So we've got those two conditions going on right now. So it's only available to the first 25 people who sign up for the next hour. So at the end of this show at 7 p.m. Eastern time, the promo code is going to turn off. So take advantage of this now if it is something that you guys are interested in. Big UFC card tomorrow. Alex Pereira taking on Magomed Ankalaev in the main event. Promo code 313. Go check it out. Head on over to the site, plug in that promo code, get yourself a 50% discount. Once again, that promo code 313 because it's UFC 313 tomorrow. I'll remind you guys of that as we go here. Eric, speaking of the Oklahoma City Thunder, I think we have to talk about some of just the crazy amount of value that's on this team. And then, of course, we'll answer everybody's questions as we go here. But I really want to start by talking about all of the players out for OKC, the potential value it's opening up. And then, like you said, very bizarre that Chet, also of all the players, Chet's been the most injury-prone player on the team the last couple of years. So for all the guys who are going to be questionable, just totally crazy that he is the one that they haven't ruled out as of yet. But I want to know, who is it that you're prioritizing the most from OKC? Is there a value piece you can't get away from? Or on the flip side, maybe there's a chalk player that you're looking to be underweight to the field to. What is most important to you from the Thunder to be rostering?
So I went on a deep dive of Aaron Wiggins. I went back and watched a lot of Maryland tape because, you watch Aaron Wiggins, he's like the 7th guy, 8th guy for OKC. He can be an absolute wagon when it comes to scoring. But you go back to his Maryland days, he could distribute 2.5 assists that he had his senior season, 32 minutes per game. Again, you have a different shot clock. Possessions generally last longer in college than what they do in the NBA when you're looking at around 16 seconds per possession. In college, you're looking around 21 seconds per possession. So when you're just looking at like a tick for tat deal, Aaron Wiggins just looks unavoidable on today's slate. He should be out there. He's got a 21.5 point prop. He's got a 2.5 assist prop. He's got a 4.5 rebound prop. Aaron Wiggins, projected for 35 fantasy points at 4,900 is unavoidable. But I think he's about the only guy right now that's unavoidable on OKC. I can make cases for getting away from Jalen Williams because of positionality. Isaiah Joe, positionality, only shooting guard availability. But Kenrich Williams is kind of also dictated by what happens with Chet Holmgren because his minutes could just be ridiculous. I think Kenrich Williams is probably the guy I'm paying attention to the most because if Chet is in, probably don't want to get to a ton of him. He's probably overowned, but as it stands right now, 14% for him if you get Chet sitting. I just don't see how Kenrich doesn't start and how he isn't my favorite tournament option on this entire slate. So, there's a lot of hyperbole that can go into OKC looks really good today. They look outrageous today, but they could look even better in the event that you get Chet out, who's projected for 38 fantasy points right now. Again, he could be an unbelievable tournament play himself, but if he ends up out and resting with everybody else, Jang becomes interesting. Flagler becomes interesting. Everybody becomes interesting.
What's speaking of the word interesting, something that's interesting to me about Chet's projection. Not only do we have him projected for 38 fantasy points right now, Eric, it's in only 25.5 minutes because of the players who are out right now. Even if he plays, there's such a wide range of outcomes with Chet's minutes that it's really, really hard to nail down. But considering with these guys out and the expected usage going to Chet, that he's projected for nearly 38 fantasy points in 25.5 minutes, it makes him such a strong GPP option if he plays. Projected for 11% ownership right now. If he plays 30 minutes, just looking at his per minute rates right now, we're looking at well over 40 fantasy points. Well over, you're looking at mid 40s fantasy points as a projection for him if we get him in for 30 minutes today. So that's definitely something to be keeping an eye on here as far as Chet goes. And then I agree with you as well. Aaron Wiggins right now, I only have 3 players that are currently in more than half my line. I guess it's kind of a good amount of players, but 3 players who are more than half my lineups, Eric. Aaron Wiggins is one of them. Do you want to guess who the other 2 are?
Scotty Barnes.
That's the second one.
Is it contrarian, this third one, or is it just
no. The 3 I have the most of aren't contrarian. I've got other contrarian guys mixed in. I've got a ton of Chet at 11% ownership right now. I've got a bunch of Harden. So those are 2 of my most rostered players.
So Aaron Wiggins, not Scotty Barnes, and it's either Joe or Jokic. Those are the only other 2.
No.
What? Oh, okay. Who is it? Who's the third one?
DeRozan.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
Yeah. No, that's another reasonable one.
Yeah, he's 5th or 6th in ownership. So, you're overweight to a guy that I think is like, what, 35% optimal? So yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, Wiggins, DeRozan, Barnes right now, those are like the core guys for me, although also chalky options. Then, like I said, I've got some more contrarian ones. Chet as a contrarian, like upper mid-range option. And then Harden only projected for 14% ownership. I like him as well. As somebody who has been pulling a ton of ownership to be getting to on tonight's slate. Christopher Kendricks wants to know, for FanDuel, $30K to first. You left this a super chat. What do you prefer for the contest archetype, marquee or high stakes? Let me see what contest that is. He just said 30K to first. I assume he's talking about the flagship one. Mm-hmm. Let's see. I'll go over what all the settings I would use if this is the contest. So I'm assuming you mean the 150K contest with the 32,000 person player entry pool, and 555 entry is the $5.55 is what the buy-in is for that. Assuming that is the contest you're talking about, then yes, that should be marquee as what you're selecting for that. High stakes is for something that has a high stakes buy-in. $5.55 wouldn't be that barometer. For me, I'm thinking about things like once I get to $100+. And then for something that's maybe like a $40 buy-in or a $50 buy-in, for me, it's in between marquee and high stakes. You could also optimize it by looking at some of the cash lines and things like that, and some of the simulated ROI lineups from the post-contest sims to get like a really good to get a really good idea for some of the individual contests where you want to be selecting. But yeah, for this one, for whenever you're seeing that flagship contest, it's like the biggest contest of the day with the biggest prize pool, it's pretty much always going to be the option you're selecting as marquee for that one. So thank you for the super chat there, Christopher. It's very much appreciated. Let's go into Discord and see what questions by the way, Tyler Hero on track to play today, Eric.
Andrew Wiggins ruled out. Alec Burks ruled out. Tyler Hero on track to play.
All right. So here is something that is going to be changing for us, where we now have, I'll pull up the ownership here for a second as well, but you'll see here now that we have Tyler Hero in, Andrew Wiggins out. Is this what you were expecting from Miami, Eric? And then in addition to that, how is this going to change how you view the Heat?
Yeah, last thing, Jaime Jaquez on track to play as well. So these are all important pieces just purely because if you had Tyler Hero out again, I mean, Bam Adebayo, I shorted his player prop from Onyx Odds last time out. Didn't end up working out because Tyler Hero ends up getting ruled out. Stuff like that's going to happen. Still almost backdoored it because of the Cleveland blowout. But I look at Alec Burks being out. That is definitely going to be something that, you know, on other slates would have been a gigantic piece of news. I don't find it to be all that pivotal here. The Andrew Wiggins one is interesting because, like, Jaime Jaquez being ruled in actually matters now with Alec Burks out as well. Like, I see Duncan Robinson as a really good potential start ad. Like Davion Mitchell, they've been pretty secure with starting. I suppose it's more of like a Kyle Anderson spot start kind of place, but I can't imagine that I really want to get to him on this slate. They have enough bodies there. And you look at OKC and they're just so shorthanded. And I can't imagine that I want to use up roster spots around the same spot as, like, I don't know, with Wiggins out. Like, I know you're replacing 36 minutes, but the more I work through it, the less I'm that interested on this specific slate.
Yeah, so we had the starting lineup projected as Davion Mitchell, Tyler Hero, Andrew Wiggins, Kevin Love, Bam Adebayo. I feel pretty good about three of those starters. I could say pretty confidently Mitchell's starting, Hero starting, Bam is starting. Kevin Love, I guess he's the most likely guy, but they don't have to start him. I guess it's Jaime Jaquez who moves back into the starting lineup. He was playing really well the last game that he was active for, and then he got hurt. I believe it was right at the end of the first half. So he scores like 20 fantasy points in 1.5 quarters, gets hurt at the end of the first half, isn't able to continue the game. As long as there's no kind of minutes restriction, which I don't think is going to be the case. I think it's Jaquez that starts. We'll see though.
Yeah. The weird thing is last time out, you had Kevin Love starting alongside Bam Adebayo. And I was just like, oh, who's going to play the backup five? It was Kyle Anderson. It was a little bit of Pell Larson, but like Kyle Anderson playing backup five. I don't really think that that's, you know, an option against every team in the NBA. It's definitely not against Randall and Gobert, I don't think. But I think the most likely thing is that we see Jaquez Anderson step into the starting lineup and Love potentially backs up Adebayo for 14 minutes just because of the matchup. Like, that being said, it was Cleveland last time out. So again, I don't think it's going to matter on this slate, but it's at least something fun to talk through because you're looking for like 1 point of deviation in your lineups. There's so many good plays. Like, we have 16, 17, 18 ridiculous plays that are not going to go anywhere no matter what happens between now and lock. But if you can find that one piece of deviation, whether that's like a surprise Pell Larson starting, whether that's a surprise Kyle Anderson starting, I don't really care who it is. Like, we want to find something to get a little bit different with. Maybe that comes from Miami, but as of right now, they just look so much worse than OKC does. And it's at the same start time, so you'll be able to cover that on playback for sure.
Yeah. And we'll see what ends up happening. More news is going to be coming here as we go. We've got some super chats in as well. And then once again, roundup of the Miami Heat news. We've got Tyler Hero expected to play, Jaime Jaquez Jr. expected to play or on track to play, which coaches can't just tell us the truth. They got to like mix in weird verbiage, but on track to play, Jaime Jaquez Jr., but Alec Burks, Andrew Wiggins, they are both out. And then, of course, Khalil Ware also remains out for the Miami Heat today. Mm-hmm. Super chat here. We've got one from Fantasy Guru 76. He wants to know sleeper pay-up option for a FanDuel power forward. So, I mean, one thing that's kind of hard when you're talking about sleeper options as pay-ups, there aren't that many pay-ups to choose from, especially typically at the power forward spot. But if we go and look at the top projected players right now at the power forward position on FanDuel.
Bam Adebayo.
Is he going to be contrarian, though, now that there's been guys ruled out?
Yeah, there's guys ruled out, and I still think we see it pretty muted. I mean, Scotty Barnes at 9,100 still looks good. Scotty Barnes is unavoidable at 7,900 on DraftKings, let alone 9,100 on FanDuel. Chet Holmgren ruled out. Everything fucking doesn't matter. I mean, what's the point of life?
So getting back to his question, here's part of when he's looking for a contrarian spend up. If you look at the FanDuel power forward position, there's only 2 players on the entire slate who are above 9K. Kevin Durant, Scotty Barnes at the power forward spot. And I'm not like in love with playing Kevin Durant and then Scotty Barnes isn't contrarian. Then you've also got Bam. So like by process of elimination, by what your answer was, Eric, I guess I kind of have to default to Bam, but I also am not even sure he's going to be all that contrarian. So, kind of a hard question to answer because there aren't really options available, but considering the best info we have, I'll agree with you and say Bam Adebayo, but who gives a shit about that now? We got the Oklahoma City Thunder to talk about. Chet Holmgren ruled out. They could have done this yesterday. Could they have not when they ruled out everybody else?
Yeah, I mean, everybody else was there. And hey, at least we got a little bit of value, I think. I have Aaron Wiggins over 2.5 assists. I have his over 3.5 rebounds. I have his over 21.5 points. I mean, I'm all invested in the Aaron Wiggins world, but I think what this does is this just kind of solidifies a 3,400 Kenrich Williams is one of the best plays on the slate. Like Kenrich Williams at 23 and change was kind of the guy that I was always pinpointing where it's like, all right, if you get Chet out, I just don't see how he is somebody you can even remotely avoid. And I think once we get an update, 3,400 Kenrich Williams is potentially going to be the best point per dollar play on the entire slate, which is saying something on this slate. I think he's probably around 27 and change. He's the guy who I think you start to really talk about. And now Jalen Williams also, you're just like, I don't see a world where he doesn't start. I think Jang at 3K becomes somebody who's in play. He played 31 minutes at the beginning of February against Milwaukee in a complete punt game that they had there. They ended up winning that too, which is just insane. But like everything about OKC has just drastically changed because the guy who's going to absorb 38, 39, 40 fantasy points is gone. And now it's Jalen Williams, Kenrich Williams with the positionality, but like specifically Kenrich Williams, definitely the guy that even in cash, I definitely want to be unloading no matter what.
Checking right now for the full list of players active for OKC. It's a short list, Eric. It is a very short list. We've got Aaron Wiggins.
Yep.
Isaiah Joe.
Yep.
Alex Caruso. Another guy too. Like, why play Alex Caruso big minutes today?
Because again, and they're not even on a back-to-back. I looked at the schedule when I was looking at everything last night when the news started rolling in, and I'm like, do they play on Saturday against like somebody big in a primetime event? No, they don't play anybody until Sunday. And it's just like a scheduled punt rest spot where they're just like, you know what? we got some other guys that we want to give some run to, and screw season ticket holders. Have fun. Enjoy this game.
Yeah, I guess they just feel it's time to rest the guys today. But anyway, it's also just to avoid any confusion from before. It was not that anybody brought up anything different, but just want to make clear Andrew Wiggins was ruled out earlier, not Aaron Wiggins. Just want to make that clear to everybody. The active players for OKC: Aaron Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, Alex Caruso, Kenrich Williams, Jalen Williams, Adam Flagler, Ousmane Dieng, Dylan Jones, Brendan Carlson. We got 9 active guys for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and a couple of these guys are players we haven't thought about the entire season. Like when have we thought about Adam Flagler, Dylan Jones, or Brendan Carlson?
I learned he's a point guard today. Isn't that exciting? Isn't that exciting? I was like, who's Adam Flagler? I actually had to look that up, and we do this every single day.
Yeah, this is a very, very thin team. I am extremely interested to see what our projected starting lineup ends up being for OKC, as well as just the overall projections that we have.
To be fair,
and
I
all
think
that.
It's pretty straightforward. I think Caruso probably starts now. I think it's Isaiah Joe, Alex Caruso for ball handling purposes, Aaron Wiggins, Kenrich Williams, and Jalen Williams. I'd be surprised if it wasn't that 5.
I wouldn't be stunned if Caruso doesn't start. And if he doesn't, I'm very concerned about his minutes too. Just you look at the players that they have opted to play and rest today, and Caruso might just be an emergency option. Yeah. I'm not saying he can't start. If he doesn't start, though, I'm very concerned about what his actual workload is.
Yeah, to be fair, he hasn't played more than 26 minutes in an entire game all season long. And the game that I thought could give us an idea of like what the Alex Caruso role is come April was that Milwaukee game, like the NBA Cup. I thought that was like the prime event to figure out what Alex Caruso is. He played 24 minutes. Like, can we get 30 minutes for him here in a useless spot? I don't know, because like, for those who aren't aware, Alex Caruso, there are like 4 or 5 on-ball defenders that I actually grade above average. Lou Dort is actually one of them on the same team, but like, there are very few guys where I'm like, DVP actually matters to me. Alex Caruso is one of them. He's a 99th percentile defender on dunks and threes. He has been for years. He's the best on-ball defender in the NBA, and nobody can really talk me off of that take. Alex Caruso, you want to have healthy come playoff time. Do you want to unleash him, though, with everybody out? I don't think so. So, like, I can't see a world where even starting, I'm going to project him for over 28 minutes.
Yeah, and we previously had him in for 24 minutes. I don't know that Chet being out massively changes that equation.
I agree.
So we'll see. We'll see when the projections update in a few minutes here, but like I think it's pretty hard to expect more than like 26 minutes from Alex Caruso. And once again, if he does not start, he's very live to just be a DNP coach's decision.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, he's 4,400, so DraftKings has kind of done us a favor. Like, they've actually done us a favor with Alex Caruso, where he's in a price point where you don't have to entertain it when you have Miles McBride, when you have AJ Lawson, when you have some actual guys who are cheaper that you can punt with that you know are going to play more minutes. Like, I'd be shocked if AJ Lawson didn't play more minutes than Alex Caruso today.
We've got Jason 123, who, by the way, I've been seeing Jason at some of the top of GPPs a pretty good amount over the last few weeks or something like that. I've come accustomed to seeing Jason's name at the top of the DraftKings leaderboard. He says, say Hero plays. He's going to play. We got pretty much confirmed that Hero's going to be in. So yeah, so we're assuming he plays. He'll say, where does he rank being point guard, shooting guard with all the other value and pay up options today? All right, Eric, let's say that Hero is confirmed in, which, you know, we pretty much know at this point. We've got Tyler Hero in for a projection of 41.3 fantasy points at $8,700. How high of a priority is he going to be for you today?
I don't think a massive one. Like, I guess we have to put all of our ducks in a row here to some extent. Like, looking at the DraftKings specific board, like, Jokic is on an island of his own as far as spend ups go because of how much value there is. Like, I know center is stacked. I know it's loaded. And at the same time, when you have a guy who's projected north of 60, you just kind of play him on slates like these. I know it's something that we've kind of regurgitated a lot this season, especially. Like, I feel like we've done it earlier this season than in years past. It's like, even in January, there were slates where it's like, oh, we have all this infinite value. You got to get to Jokic. You got to get to Giannis. You got to get to SGA. And this year, it hasn't really existed. This year, well, it's just been different. But Jokic is sitting there, I would still say appropriately owned at like around 45, 47% owned because he's 12-3 and there's nowhere else to spend money. I think now you just open up the entire board. Tyler Hero's 8,700 on DraftKings. He's just another guy amongst all these guys that we want to rotate through. I think the most interesting as far as like a spend up that people aren't getting to is James Harden at 9,800. Like Kawhi Leonard still isn't playing like 36 minutes. It's a New York team that will be playing without Jalen Brunson. If they blow it out, it's still probably James Harden who's out there creating, out there doing everything and playing underappreciated basketball this season for what was expected of James Harden. He's sitting around 14, 15% ownership. And because point guard doesn't have an SGA or like another spend up, LaMelo Ball, I don't think plays like any kind of outrageous minutes. James Harden's just kind of like on an island where he's projected for like 48, 49 fantasy points. And there's nobody remotely close to him. So like, I think he's the most interesting. I think the next most interesting ends up being Kevin Durant because of small forward, power forward positionality at 8,900. It's a Suns team that's reinvigorated. It obviously has some correlation with Jokic as far as the spend up goes. So like, you have to get like 8, 9, 10 guys deep before I start seeing Tyler Hero as like a breakout option. He's projected around 41.5 fantasy points. I think that's about appropriate. And overall, I don't want to get to him over the John Morant's. John Morant's playing basketball today. De'Aaron Fox, I think he looks great and he has the late positionality. So like the more I work through it, Tyler Hero just isn't really going to make my rosters at all.
Yeah, so we just got a projections update, and this is now going to take Andrew Wiggins. Once again, Andrew Wiggins, making it very clear that it's how confusing. They're not related at all. Their jump shot looks exactly the same.
Sucks.
And they got fairly similar first names as well. But you'll see here, even now that we've got a projections update, it bumped Tyler Hero up a little bit, but to 41.74. On a slate like this, where there's so much value and it's really easy to get up to the top spend ups, it's just kind of unnecessary to go to Tyler Hero. You could very easily get the couple $1,000 extra dollars spent in your lineup and get to
Gobert's
James
out.
Harden,
What? Why is Gobert out? What?
Injury maintenance. He comes back. He hasn't even played a game since coming back, and they're maintaining it.
It's the dumbest thing I've ever read. Why is Gobert out? All right. So I didn't think we were going to be talking about this, but like I think Ant and like Naz Reid, Julius Randle, like these were guys I just wasn't going to play at all. Now they can show up in a lineup or two and I'm okay with it. But like, I just thought we were going to write off Minnesota entirely today, but guess not.
I still think I'm mostly going to be writing off Minnesota just because Gobert, how long has Gobert been out for now?
Forever.
Yeah. It's been a minute. It's been a minute. The point being is this team is already priced for Rudy Gobert to be out. I just don't think I'm going to end up with any kind of significant moves towards like Naz Reid or other Timberwolves players. I could end up being proven wrong when stuff updates. Like Randall, like he's the one guy who maybe could land in lineups. But for me, I don't imagine that like Naz Reid or Jaden McDaniels are going to be like massive parts of my lineups now or anything like that as a result of Rudy Gobert being out. And then once again, just to finish up on Tyler Hero, not somebody who I really imagine is going to be in very many lineups for me.
Agreed.
But let's look at OKC now, because we now have the projections update here with Chet being out. And as a result, I mean, everybody, this is the most absurd thing I've ever seen. It's all green. Everybody here, it is just crazy, crazy good value options. Wiggins in for 36.5 fantasy points. Jalen Williams in for 35 fantasy points. We've got Isaiah Joe for just under 30 fantasy points. Alex Caruso for 27.5. Kenrich Williams for 24.5. We've got Adam Flagler. Another one I have to be very careful how I say his name. Adam Flagler, 24 fantasy points. With a flat min for him. Then you got Usman Jang for 23.33. I don't know I'm going to build a single lineup with less than 3 OKC players.
Denny Avdi out.
This is insanity.
Jeremy Grant, a variable to play. Why? Why are you playing Jeremy
Grant? The guy who never plays, he's the one who's playing today?
Yeah, what the hell? What is going on? I was going to nuke of the night Anthony Simons. Now I'm not because Jeremy Grant's in, but it's fine.
Do you want me to should we do it now, or do we need more time for the nuke of the night?
Fuck it.
And there is Eric. I mean, there are so many different directions that we could end up going to today. I feel pretty good about the direction that I want to be going in. I do want to see an ownership update, but I don't think this guy's going to be massively popular. I go. Do you want me to go first? Do you want to go first?
I would love to. You seem really excited, so I'm excited for this.
All right. So I think you have a pretty good idea of what I often do on these slates, which is if we have a crazy amount of value, which we do, courtesy of OKC, who they're on the screen right here.
Yep.
I like to find who is the player I can pay up for that has the most upside for the most minimal amount of ownership. And there are actually a handful of guys that fit that bill for today. But the one that stands out the most to me, James Harden, only projected for ownership at 14% at the moment. And you look at the other pay up options where you got, like Nikola Jokic, he's very popular. Scotty Barnes also, not like a super high pay up option, but still, he's $7,900. He's also very, very popular. Project for north of 50% ownership. So then you start to find all right, who are the other guys I could pay up for that could potentially break the slate? James Harden's had a massive ceiling this year. He's been inconsistent. Some days the shot doesn't go. Some days the ancillary stats aren't there, and he won't always hit that ceiling. But for a slate where we have as much value as we do, he should be way higher owned than 14%, in my opinion.
Absolutely agree. Absolutely agree. I love James Harden against this Knicks team. And my guy is actually going to come from the same team now. We have center where it is just absolutely loaded. We have Jokic. He's in over 50% of my lineups. I have Karl Anthony Towns, I think is an interesting tournament play. Jonas Valanciunas, a guy that's underappreciated, I think, as far as what we're looking at as well. Nurkic is starting, so we'll get there as well. But I think Ivica Zubac is kind of in the same context where you're talking about 50, 55 point upside. New York played a double OT, just a straight up overtime game yesterday. Jalen Brunson turns his ankle, but Karl Anthony Towns rim protecting has not been a thing. And these are the kind of spots where Zubac puts up 50, 55 in the mid range. And you can really differentiate your lineups, even from some of these, Jalen Williams puts up 30, he smashes, awesome. Jonas Valanciunas puts up 40, awesome, he smashes. But Ivica Zubac against the Knicks in this spot, they don't have Huck Porty behind it. They're going to probably roll out Precious Achiuwa in the backup five, hopefully, if they're them. But you could also have Precious get ruled out. And it's OG Anunoby or who else is going to play the five there? I think this is a Zubac. It's the same thing that I think Josh was talking about a little bit with Zach Edey. I do think Zach Edey smashes today. He's 1 or 2% owned, but I think Zubac does the same thing, but has a much higher stratosphere where it's 55, 60 incoming. I'm obsessed with Harden and Zubac for tournaments. So love that play from you.
All right, there we have it. Also, guys, don't forget, we do have our sale going on, which is only going to be available for another 24 minutes. Sign up for any UFC package with the promo code 313, and you're going to get yourself 50% off any package you choose to sign up for. We've got a big pay-per-view card tomorrow. There are massive contests in the lobby, and bigger contests than there's been for NBA pretty much the entire season for this big UFC pay-per-view. So if you guys are going to be playing tomorrow, any package, 50% off with the promo code UFC, with the promo code 313. And that is going to be expiring either in 23 minutes or until 25 people sign up. I can't check how many people have signed up over the course of the show. Don't have that availability. So not sure if it's still active, but use that promo code before it expires.
13 people have signed up already. 13 people have signed up. You got to sign up now. You have 7 spots left? 7?
That's not math, but
the math is
close.
13? How many people have signed up so far? We have 25
you said
spots.
13. Open. If it's 25, that would be 12. There's the error of your ways.
Just saw 13 on the sheet, Greg. That's all I was saying. Denny is out. Yes, correct. Denny is out, but Jeremy Grant is in for absolutely no reason, which just sucks.
For no reason whatsoever,
No
according
GD
to
reason.
Fry. No reason whatsoever. Let's see. What do we have for... All right, so let's look at the starting lineups and see what we have. I really want to see our projected starting lineup for OKC. Any final guesses here, Eric? I know you said you thought you felt pretty confident, but let's see what our projected starting lineup is.
Okay, I'll pull up what I had as well, because again, for those who don't know, we have a lineup. It's always nice to be able to cross-reference exactly what our starting lineup is along with it, but I have Caruso, Joe, Wiggins, Kenrich, and Jalen Williams with a Y.
That is exactly what we have projected here. So the OKC starting lineup, that's what Eric's projecting. That's what our data team is projecting. There's so many.
I think the only thing that could happen is Flagler starts instead of Alex Caruso. I think Flagler could start alongside Isaiah Joe just as a ball handler. But
they could go so many different ways. We've seen some of the just dumbest batshit lineups over the last week or so. I'm not going to, I will not be a fool anymore the rest of the season. Say this team can only start these players because you end up looking like a moron more often than not doing that.
Today, Junior. Yeah.
There was, what was the team? I can't remember. There was one earlier in the week where I said that they could only start like this team or this iteration or this iteration. And the lineup came out 30 seconds later and it was entirely different.
Oh, who was that? It wasn't Dallas. It was somebody else. It was, I can remember who it was. Somebody in chat's going to put it in probably. Eric, very nice V-neck, dude. Thank you, bro. Let's see. I can't. People are incredible sometimes. Was it Chicago? It wasn't the Bulls. No, it wasn't the Bulls. It was some other random team. I remember, and we both looked at it. We just said, oh, well, you could have given me 1,000 guesses, and I never would have gotten that. 1-2, I don't need that slander. That is a $2 super chat you should get back.
I'm surprised you were able to identify that as $2. Yeah. Equation of the night, according to 1-2, 25 minus 13 equals. Eric's answer was 7 before.
No, I was saying the 13 have been used already, so you have 12 left.
That is not what you said. There's 7 left. Everybody in chat will agree with me on this. You said there are 7
like
left.
Me trying to count up the number of times I've had sex with my wife. It's just
the 7
make
or the
it
13.
Up. Make it, it's 7 or no, it's 13. There we go.
Boy, Eric's got to be so easy to fool. He's got to be so easy to trick.
Anyway.
All right, we got some more super chats to answer here. This one is from Mustang Man Mike. Mustang Man Mike wants to know, who are the 5 must plays for a FanDuel cash game? I saw this question earlier. I did want to put off answering it a little bit just because of the fact that there was so many moving parts to come that I had a feeling that whatever it was that I was going to answer was probably going to be different at a different time frame.
Right.
But now that we've got 19 minutes to go until lock, I think we could have a better idea of who it is that we absolutely want to be playing in cash games over on FanDuel. Here's some of the highest projected players on the slate. Eric, who are you going to call the must plays in cash games over on FanDuel?
On FanDuel, Nikola Jokic, I still, this is so weird because like, I don't think he's the must play in cash at center. Like Jalen Williams is definitely primed for it, but like, what else are you putting your money towards? Like you're playing Aaron Wiggins, you're playing Isaiah Joe, you're playing DeMar DeRozan, you're playing Scotty Barnes, James Harden probably in cash over. Like if you don't have enough for Scotty Barnes plus James Harden and then getting to Jokic, I guess I'm okay with that. I would play Kenrich Williams in cash at 3,700 now. Like I mean, that's like 6 guys right off the bat.
Yeah, I agree. But I think Jokic has to be the guy at center for cash. I know that Jalen Williams is also really popular, but to your point, like what else are you spending your money on? Do you feel pretty good about? Maybe there's some risk here. Like what happens if Jokic gets ruled out later and then he kind of gets stuck in a shitty situation? So, potentially be available to, make some changes depending on what the news ends up being. But yeah, Wiggins, Isaiah Joe, DeRozan, Scotty Barnes. I'll say James Harden over for FanDuel as well. He's quite a bit more popular on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings. There's like 30 guys that I would want to play in a FanDuel cash game. Same for DraftKings.
I need to zip up this right now. I'm over people. I'm over it today.
Zip it up and take your pants off. Go. I'm your boss. That's a demand. Let's see what else we have for super chats.
Authoritative. Oh, that's nice.
We are caught up on, Fantasy Guru 76. Also, I think I missed this part of it. Before he asked us for our favorite spend up power forward, but he also asked small forward, which I missed that he had included that as part of the question. So for our favorite contrarian or sleeper spend up small forward. So once again, Scotty Barnes can't really be considered a sleeper here. Then you got Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards. I'll say Edwards, but once again, it's kind of like the same conundrum as the power forward spot.
What do you think about Najee Marshall?
He's not a spend up.
Spend up 6K? Okay. Not like spend up. DeMar DeRozan is your best quote unquote spend up 7,500, him or Scotty Barnes. Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I'll lean towards Edwards, but I mean, the only options you have here for a contrarian spend up is either Kevin Durant or Anthony Edwards. I have a slight lean here towards Edwards, but not really all that significant. We also had a projections update that just came in, so we'll go and look at the trying to think the Portland Trailblazers, Denny Avdia being ruled out. There's been so many news items that I'm trying to remember. Like, what did we update for? What is the last thing that changed?
Literally doesn't matter to me. And here's the thing is I was looking for any excuse to find anything to play from Portland. It doesn't matter what your name is. Like, Portland still sucks on this slate. Like, I needed Denny and Jeremy Grant out. Jeremy Grant in is just obnoxious. It just ruins anything that you could possibly get to. And we have Shaedon Sharpe up to 6,800 now. We have Denny Avdia up to 6,600 now. Like, it's annoying to have Jeremy Grant in for no reason because, like, Simons and Avdia, I thought were going to be, like, interesting tournament plays. I guess you could still get to a share or two of them, but, I mean, I was looking for any excuse to play a Portland thing next to all this OKC we have in our lineups, and I just don't think they're worth it. So, like, I still think I'm going to X them out. Probably not play them in 55 lineups.
So there's a lot of there's only so many players on each team. There's a few guys that project decently for Portland. The problem is projecting decently relative to your salary today is the equivalent of being terrible because there's so many good points per dollar plays. So you look at like Simons, Sharp, Klingon, like these guys, Kamara as well. They're all okay, but like, why play somebody who's okay today? You don't want okay today. Okay is no good.
No, okay is not good. And okay, also, like, this is one of those things where it's like OKC could murder them. OKC could get murdered. And there's still going to be one or two players from OKC that probably work out optimal. And there could be absurd game scripts. And I still don't think anything from Portland has to come along for the ride. And I mean, that's why we have 6-7% ownership coming in on them. But like, traditionally speaking, I would want to find an excuse to play something there. I just can't do it with Jeremy Grant. And he's just playing obnoxious minutes, doing obnoxious things. He doesn't even have a ton of usage, doesn't have a ton of assist rate or rebound rate. It's just his minutes that he eats up. He's annoying for this slate.
Let's see what else we have for questions. I see we got one other super chat here from Jason Oder. He wants to know how much of a priority is Nurkic compared to the other cheap centers. Nurkic has been confirmed as a starter. And if you guys go ahead and see what we have for a projection now, Nurkic at $3,700 projected for 28 fantasy points, only 23 minutes. He looks pretty damn good, Eric.
Yeah, he looks damn good. And I mean, I need Nurkic to just assist the basketball like crazy. I ended up on 2.5 assists, ended up on 4.5 assists, ended up on everything for Nurkic. He was like plus 575. He's like plus 475 right now for 5 assists. But specifically, I need that over 2.5 assists. That would look really good. That's what I posted over on X from Bet365. But I think the main thing is that, like, yeah, you're giving up some positionality, but he is 3,700. Like, he is so damn cheap. And if you look through his game logs too, he's been out a little bit. He's also played backup center minutes. We saw one game, 27 minutes against Sacramento, and that game blew out like crazy where it was like him starting with LaMelo Ball. I think that's closer to what we're getting from him. And like, I think he's a really good center option amongst a lot of really good center options. I think the main issue I have is I like Jalen Williams more. I like Kenrich Williams more, power forward center. And I like Jokic just as like a guy to get to. And so I doubt I get to like a ton when it's all said and done, but I'll let the Sims tool do its thing.
Yeah, I'm updating all my lineups now, and I don't have a good sense of how much I'm going to be getting to some of these individual, because there's so many good value options now on paper. But almost any other slate this year, Nurkic is the most popular player on the slate, and like not even close. He's projected for like 70 to 80% ownership. He's going to be popular today, but not in the same way that you would normally think of a guy who's projected for nearly 30 fantasy points at sub 4K, because of just the overall amount of options we have on the slate. So let's see, Nurkic. Yeah, I mean, look at Nurkic projected for 18.9% ownership on DraftKings with a nearly 30 fantasy point projection at $3,700.
It's insane. I mean, this is the most ridiculous. Like, I've said this 3 times this week. This is the most ridiculous slate of the year. I mean, this is just absolutely ridiculous. But it is the 3rd time that I've said this year on a Live Before Lock. And I hosted a deep dive yesterday. So, like, 3 of the 4 days have been obnoxious. But it is what it is. Like, I just don't see how you don't want to get to a little bit of, again, and I talked about Zubats as Nuke of the Night, because purely he's not going to get over 5-6% no matter what. And he's closer to like 8, 9, 10% optimal. Like, those are the kind of edges you're looking for on this slate that, you know, before it's like, oh, you would just jam Nurkic on this slate and you'd figure out the other 7 lineup spots. No, there's 20 other players that look like him, and they're all on like one team, OKC. But we got to be very, very careful. This is where the Sims tool can really separate you and really give you an opportunity to find ways and avenues of being different without having to force it.
Yeah, which you guys could sign up for free through any of the links we have down below in the YouTube description box. We do have our link join offer available. So if you guys sign up for any of our affiliate partners, the newest ones, Fanatics and Chalkboard, 1 free month of NBA Core access, get access to our player projections, ownership projections, our Sims, 1 month free for each one of our partners. You sign up for it using that link down below. All right, Eric, let's see what else we have for questions. Ooh. By the way, oh yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I've just updated my lineups and I can't believe all the shit that I'm looking at.
Yeah, I've got my Sims are just about to be done being run, and I'll see what it is that I'm landing on. But we've also got here from Cream. Cream is just remind me, it was Boston. So yeah, just yesterday, when they started Peterson, I was looking at like, what the hell is this starting
and
lineup?
Kata alongside freaking Luke Cornett. Like, what are we doing? I ended up playing some Kata. He was like 7%. No regrets. No regrets, if you will, going across. Yeah. But it didn't really matter yesterday. I was I think I still 2x'd, which I'm fine with. But like, thank you, Luka Doncic. Thank you, overtime. That was nice.
Do you want to? You said your Sims updated, right? You
got I just got it updated. Yeah.
Okay.
It's absurd what I'm looking at.
This has been such a bizarre slate. I've got my shit all updated too. Let's go through each position and say our favorite chalk and favorite contrarian option at each spot. Starting at point guard for me, as a chalk option, Scotty Barnes, just so difficult to get away from today. As a contrarian option, Adam Flagler.
Yeah, I love Adam Flagler today. I think there's a chance he starts. I just want to throw it out there. There's a chance that he starts and really kind of flips this slate on its head. Scotty Barnes, I would say too, you could put him at small forward as well. You want to throw one more in there. Keon Ellis, not really getting discussed, but Keon Ellis played into the 30s last time out. Gets you that
minutes,
late.
I think. Yeah,
it was an absurd amount of minutes. And Keon Ellis at 4,400. The more value we have show up, the further down he keeps dropping. And I do think Keon Ellis is one of those guys that should continue to start for Sacramento. He does a lot in the stock department. I think he's a very interesting, especially on FanDuel. I think Keon Ellis is an awesome play.
Yeah. Keon Ellis, to me, like so many of these guys look good. He's probably going to be a little bit of a casualty of the slate for me. So I've got some of them, not all that much. So not somebody to be mentioning for me there at shooting guard. Chalk option for me, Isaiah Joe. Contrarian option for me at shooting guard, Eric. Kind of somewhat related to a guy you had brought up before, but Zach LaVine at 15% projected ownership.
Love Zach LaVine today, especially with all the ownership coming in on DeMar DeRozan. I've got him in 28% of my lineup, so he's going to be my contrarian guy. Chalk guy, I don't see how you get away from Isaiah Joe is the answer.
Yeah, and just because I think it's funny to look at the points per dollar metric here, you never seen anything like this on a slate this season. Just crazy amounts of value available for us tonight. At small forward, my chalk, the chalk option, it's going to be Aaron Wiggins. I purposefully picked Scotty Barnes at point guard. At small forward, I'm going to go with Aaron Wiggins, although I guess I could go with Wiggins at power forward and go with DeMar DeRozan here. There's a couple of different directions to go. If I'm going to be contrarian at small forward, it's kind of hard. I don't have a contrarian. There's so many good chalk options at small forward. I don't have like a low owned players in north of 20% of lineups for me. There's Zach LaVine, but I already said him at shooting guard. Could you help me here? Do you have a contrarian small forward that you really like?
Yeah, I do. Najee Marshall. Nothing's really changed as far as Dallas goes. They're really shorthanded. And as we keep getting more and more and more and more players added to the slate, Najee Marshall is one of the guys who has legit 50 fantasy point upside where he can contribute and has to be out there. It's also like the nut matchup. And I'm looking for reasons to get to Dallas, guys, just because they're facing Memphis with John Morant, Santi Aldama in. This game should move. And so, I think finding ways onto a couple of Dallas guys makes sense. Najee Marshall is my dude. I've got him in 28% of lineups as well.
And final call here before we go through our final two positions. Just a few minutes left until the promo code ends here. And look, we got Alex Pereira. He made this nice little card for you guys, holding it up 50% off with promo code 313. 5 minutes left until the promo code closes here. If you guys are going to be playing MMA DFS tomorrow, want access to our Sims, player projections, ownership projections, any package you choose to sign up for, it is 50% off with the promo code 313. And that deal is going to be expiring in 5 minutes here. Let's go ahead now and look at the power forward position where Aaron Wiggins, pretty clearly the top dog at the spot. He is taking up a ton of my power forward spots. As far as contrarian, you can go with a handful of OKC guys like Kenrich Williams, Ousmane Dieng. If I want to go really low owned, I actually don't hate Julius Randle. We've got no Rudy Gobert. There's only 8% ownership going to Randle, so I'm about 2x the field on him. What do you like at the power forward spot, Eric?
I love Kenrich Williams. Absolutely love him. 3,400. I think he is who gets the start here, and I think he looks awesome. Should be out there creating, doing a lot of other things as well. So he's kind of, again, because of how many good plays we have, he's only 19% owned. I think he looks incredible. As a contrarian power forward, Kevin Durant. This is a Suns team that they've been fighting for their lives for like a month, but up-tempo spot here against Denver. I have a lot of Jokic in my lineups. Would like him or Booker to come along for the ride a little bit.
All right, and now finally, the center position. You could go either Jokic or Jalen Williams is a good chalk option. If I want to be going with somebody contrarian, not that he's crazy low owned or anything like that, but Nurkic, we brought up before, projection nearly 30 fantasy points at $3,700, sub 20% ownership. That basically never happens. So he's a viable option. Same with Orlando Robinson, who also projects for nearly 30 fantasy points at $3,500, isn't really pulling all that much ownership. Jalen Williams, Nikola Jokic, both really strong options here, but they're chalky. For yourself, Eric, chalk option, contrarian option at center?
Yeah, I love Zubats as the contrarian option. Just same thing. We're looking for like insane upside. I think my favorite chalk is by far Jokic. Again, Jalen Williams looks good. Zach Edey, if you're looking for like a 1-2% bomb. There are so many good plays on today's slate, but overall feel pretty darn good. Oh, why is Geno Smith traded to the Raiders? That's a random one. Anyway, back to NBA. I feel good about Zubats as a tournament play.
All right, let's see what else we have for outstanding questions. Eric Goodwin just left us a super chat. He wants to know Ellis and Sharp or Quickly and Jacoby on DK. That for me, let's see. Yeah, I'm going to go with the latter. Emmanuel Quickly and Jacoby Walters.
Love ladders. Love ladders.
And now going into Discord, we've got Bando wants to know, is McBride still a good play with all of the value that we have here for OKC? Like if the slate just existed in a vacuum, and it's like, do you want to play Miles McBride at $4,200? The answer would be yes. I only have 9% of him, though. He really got squeezed out of my lineups.
Yeah, Miles McBride looks awesome in some ways, but like, here's the thing. We have a 3-game night slate to play. We have projections for it. We have the Sims tool at your usage. I'm going to play the evening slate and just play a lot of Miles McBride. I don't need to force him in on this slate.
Omega 2K1 wants to know who is a must-play spend-up in a FanDuel single entry. For me, if I'm just choosing one guy as a spend-up, Scotty Barnes.
Scotty Barnes definitely looks awesome.
Yeah, I'll go Scotty Barnes. DeRozan also, that's another one. Really, really strong.
How much Nurkic did you get to? I'm just curious before we get to lock.
I have a little over 20%.
Okay, I have like 8, and I'm obsessed with Nurkic from a betting perspective today. I just can't get to him today. It's just absurd.
We're going to feel like idiots at the end of the day where it's like, wait, of course this guy scored 30 fantasy points in mid-price and I didn't play him. It's going to happen. It's going to happen with so many guys too.
That's how I feel on most slates, yes.
Yeah. Kareem wants to know, what about Fox and a return to Sacramento? I'm overweight to Fox. He's only pulling single-digit ownership, and I have mid-teens exposure to him, so I'm like 1.5x the field. I prefer Harden in a slightly higher price point if I'm paying up at point guard and being somewhat contrarian, but I'm overweight to Fox as well.
Yeah, Fox looks nifty. And also late game, not that we need the positionality or anything. Maybe we get something random from OKC, but I just think San Antonio, Sacramento. Don't sleep on Devin Vassell, not just because he put up 72 and change last time out, but like playing mid-30s minutes. I think you're trying to find like 1 or 2 pieces of deviation. There's a lot of ways to go about doing it, but I kind of prefer that Sacramento, San Antonio spot, whether it's DeRozan, Levine, De'Aaron Fox. I think all of them look really, really nice.
If you guys haven't done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Come join Josh and I over in Playback. We're still waiting on pretty significant news. Nikola Jokic is questionable. Aaron Gordon is questionable. But then also, so many of these starting lineups could be, who knows what these teams decide to do. We saw the Celtics, who had a list of good players to start, started a guy in Drew Peterson, who yesterday when that news came out, when I was doing the post-lock show with Ben, he said, "Isn't that the guy who killed his wife?" It might have been. There was no way to know. It could have been the same guy. We've never seen this guy play before. It could have been the same
honestly,
guy.
That's the greatest thing I've ever heard. I mean, not
We
great
knew the
difference,
difference.
but I'm just saying that is hilarious.
So there's only one
God.
game that's locking right now. That's Cleveland and Charlotte. We are still waiting on starting lineups for the Toronto Raptors. Like that could be anything for today. The Dallas Mavericks, they could do weird shit with their starting lineup. OKC, who the hell knows what they're going to do with their starting lineup? And obviously Denver, we don't know what they're going to be doing there. There's a couple of different directions Miami could go, considering that they've got Wiggins out for them. So come join Josh and I over in Playback. We'll be giving out some bets. We'll watch the games. We'll sweat them out. We'll react to the news. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Have a great weekend. Come see us over in Playback.